In this video, we will talk about how to disseminate your work once you have finished your dissertation or thesis. This video is based on chapter 12 of How to Write a Better Thesis, written by Evans, Gruben, Zobel, published in 2014 by Springer. The plan for the video is to start talking about how to publish your work, how to make spoken presentations, some advice for graduate students, and some advice for searching online resources that could help you disseminate your work. So, congrats, you're finished with your dissertation, with your thesis. Phew, oh my gosh, yeah, this is awesome, right? It feels good. But it's not the end, right? Once you have written your thesis, your dissertation, make sure that all the good work that you have done in your project gets published, right? One good advice is, if you want to publish your work eventually in some form, is to have as soon as possible a dissemination plan. That is a plan for how to publish your stuff, right? So, it is useful to have it while you're still working on your project, while you're still writing, and even really, experienced researchers think about where and how they will publish their work, even at the point when they just design their projects, right? So think about what would be a good outlet to publish, how you want to publish, how much work you're willing to devote to, preparing your dissertation for publishing, right? So think about that, discuss it with your advisor, discuss it with your colleagues, with other professors, and have it as soon as possible. Okay, so another advice which really is helpful is to regularly give research seminars, right? So present your work, get feedback. Feedback on your project is essential, and it helps you to develop your work, and often you can get some insights about how to prepare your work for publishing and how to and where to publish your work. Okay. Often, if you present at conferences, that could those conferences might publish proceedings, and your presentations, your notes for the presentations, the summaries of your work that you prepare for your research seminars, for presentations, for conferences, they are really helpful. They form usually the basis for future conference papers and papers in academic journals. Next piece of advice connected to publishing your work is to realize that if you are writing a classical thesis or dissertation, the long kind of thing consisting of several chapters which are focusing on some aspect of your work, like introductory chapter, lit review chapter, method chapter, and things like that, then if you are thinking about to condense your work into one or two or maybe more research articles, you have to understand that research articles have a different set of rules and conventions from dissertations and theses, right? So to publish your work as papers, you will need to address a different readership, and there are specific conventions, often very discipline specific, that you will have to follow, and it's an entire type of work, and it's a lot of work often to turn your long dissertation, your long thesis, into one or more papers. Okay, so some fields like economics, for example, they allow their students, at least at the graduate level, to write so-called 3-article dissertations, in which each chapter is an article already ready to be submitted into an academic journal. So if you have this kind of option, go ahead and explore, ask your department. That could be one way to kind of to eliminate that much work that you will have to do when transforming your long dissertation into actual research articles, if your terminal goal is to publish as articles, of course. Okay. So another advice is that you should realize that papers written on the basis of your work, right? I mean the dissertation work, right, should be or could be written jointly with your supervisor and possibly other colleagues too, right? So because it's a thesis, it's a dissertation, so there was a lot of uh, you did it as a student, right? Your advisor and your committee members, they provided a lot of input, maybe even especially the advisor, maybe they even edited some of your work, maybe they have uh, allowed you to use their data, I don't know, right? Anyway, they have you have done it not completely alone, right? So you want to respect the input of those parties, and you should discuss the authorship issues if you plan to submit your work as academic papers to journals or conferences. You have to make sure you discuss this with your supervisor and other people who had their input into your thesis or dissertation. Spoken presentations are very important in disseminating your work. As my advisor says, any presentation is a job talk, right? People watching you present might be the ones who will offer you a job immediately or sometime in the future after your presentation. So you should realize that spoken presentations are completely different from written, presentations of the same material, right? So in writing, in dissertation thesis, that is um, both are academic, of course, but presentations, it's better if they are more lively, more interesting, as fun as possible, I would say, right? Please never just read your written papers to the audience, right? And don't even read your PowerPoints. Talk to your audience, right? So do take the effort and develop your skills as a speaker. Okay, these skills, they do not develop when you are just writing and writing and writing. Writing is awesome, but to move forward in your professional life, it is super important to have the public speaking skills as well. If you are a graduate student, right? So one thing which is very useful to do is to think and act like the professional researcher that you are striving to become, and be responsible. Look, ask for advice, right? Ask for advice from your professors, also from your peers, and importantly, maintain a sustainable regime or regimen of work, right? So maintain some sort, develop first and maintain a sustainable lifestyle that allows you to be productive but also to be a generally happy person. So if you know some of your weaknesses that prevent you from being a productive researcher, think what you could do to address that and to kind of overcome those weaknesses and be productive. Another advice, which is often overlooked by graduate students, they usually tend to focus, just on finishing the dissertation, and that's good enough, right? It's good. Yes, there are the attrition rate from graduate programs is enormous, at least in some countries. So it is awesome if you finish your dissertation, but remember that might not be sufficient, that might not be enough for a productive career. So as early as you can, consider taking on other academic commitments such as teaching, reviewing and mentoring, right? If you could do a teaching assistantship or maybe get a part-time teaching job, not the kind of teaching job that doesn't interfere with your productivity research wise, right? Do that, and especially if you like the course you are going to be teaching, or if you are interested in teaching this course in the future, right? Get the necessary experience. That's important. Try to review. Being a reviewer is amazing. It helps you to develop your skills. It gives you a lot of opportunities to develop your critical thinking, and reviewing is really a good way to kind of have a look at yourself from the outside as well. because by reviewing other people's work, you also start thinking about, hey, I could do these things, or I should not do these things, or I could do these things better, right? So you could start by reviewing for conferences, maybe. Yeah, conferences often invite volunteers, and they might include graduate students. They select, of course, reviewers, but you have high chances that you might be accepted as a reviewer for conferences. And if you can, get into a reviewer pool of a journal, of more than one journal. Start mentoring. It's never too early to start mentoring. You can, some universities offer peer mentoring programs where you can go ahead and volunteer to be a mentor, or just start mentoring people around you. In graduate programs, there are a lot of opportunities to help out your peers. If you're strong in stats, help out. Do some advising, statistical advising, and other things. Try mentoring already. Okay, you can mentor some undergrads. You can be a co-advisor. Consider what you can do with this. Also, as a graduate student, try to balance life and work commitments and pay a particular attention to the demands of your partners and your other family, right? Sometimes life will seem to be getting in the way of your work, but you have to learn to cope, because having your social life is really essential to your happiness. And finally, do not be overly naive. Do expect that the write-up phase will be committed, focused, hard work, where you have to have eliminated distractions. Really, you have to focus, right? So it's going to be tough, it's going to be long, it's going to be a bit lonely, but just if you are ready for that, it's more bearable. Finally, there are a ton of online resources. Don't expect here any list of websites or anything, but I think in these days, when speaking about online resources, the best way is to tell people what to search for, right? So I would recommend, and the book recommends, to Google things. Well, they are not saying go Google, it's me saying that you could Google. So Google overall techniques for giving talks, develop your public speaking skills, right? Try to learn to speak with confidence, and overcoming stage fright. So here are all the keywords. Like, you can search, you can Google overcoming stage fright, or learning to speak with confidence. Do learn those things. They are super important. Learn effective data presentation. Here, it's really more about quant research, I guess, but even with qualitative research or with theoretical research, you will likely present some theoretical models, which are in the form of some sort of a figure, right, or a table, maybe, I don't know, right? So it's always useful to invest your effort and time into learning how to make visualizations. As I said in some earlier videos, Python has a nice library. R produces great graphs. I do use graphs in Stata often. Even if you are using Excel, there are ways to create beautiful Excel graphs. So do that. Do invest your time in learning how to make nice visualizations of your research results. Okay. And finally, I cannot stress this enough. Go ahead and learn how to, make good slides, presentation slides. It doesn't depend, no matter what kind of software you like, PowerPoint or something else, it doesn't matter. Slide design is not software specific. Have nice slides, please. Okay. All right, that's about it. Thanks for watching.